Yeah, I hope we are on the live screen. We have four attendees as well. Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, everyone. I hope everyone will be joining soon. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes. So meanwhile, I'll introduce Anirudh. We have in a as a speaker. So he's a great personality. Today, lots of things we're gonna learn about communities and products together. So every community, I mean, every product has a community these days because that's how everyone can grow and get benefited with the product and can evolve as a product. So without community, it's very difficult. So this is what we are going to learn today. I'm really excited for this session. So anyone who is new to Aviyel, so basically we are building communities for open source projects. So we want a project to turn into a product. So that's the evolution we are looking at for the open source, because open source is vast and it's very huge. So lots of evolution that can be seen, but due to certain things, the projects are not able to sustain, right? So that's the problem we are trying to solve with the help of Aviyel. And I'm sorry this is late because Hacktoberfest was done before, but this is a part of Hacktoberfest. It was also listed on the Hacktoberfest official website. But yeah, we are trying to do the post session. You can think in that way. We have Anirudh is really great, and he's working as developer marketing manager at Savo Labs, and he was also he has worked in HackerEarth as a developer evangelist before. Really great, and he has great passion for building communities around product. So yeah, over to you, Anirudh.
Thanks, Joshua. Thanks for that quick intro. Very sweet of you guys to actually have me here today. Thank you for that. I know we're a little late. I think this was a session which was supposed to happen in October, and I'm sorry, I was a little caught up with a bunch of things, which is why we had to push it a little. We have a couple of attendees. Thank you for joining in firstly. We will be talking about communities and products like how Joshua mentioned. Awesome. So before we sort of jump in, today's topic is obviously communities and products. I've been to give you an idea of what my relation between community and products is. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on myself to get you guys familiar or why you should actually be listening to this particular session. Professionally, I'm a developer marketing manager at Savo Labs. I am also the head of growth at Citta India, and I'm also a host on Mindit. What this basically means is I love building communities. I love helping build communities around specific products. So that is something that I have had about 2+ years of experience in. I started my entire journey out by building a small micro community for a hyperlocal app that was called Kushi. This was when I was back in college. And I was just an intern who was sort of stumbling into this entire ecosystem of building communities. Didn't know it was going to blow up, and that's what I would be pursuing for the next couple of years. Post which I just joined HackerEarth as a community evangelist who was helping build the campus program and sort of trying to scale the existing community that was present at HackerEarth. We were somewhere around 3 million odd community users. I sort of left HackerEarth recently, about 3 weeks or so. And when I was leaving, the number was somewhere a little over 6 million. So that is about 3 million community users over in a span of 2 years, which was very exciting. I got to be a part of that exciting venture, post which I am now working at Savo Labs, which is also an early stage startup, which is sort of scaling up and growing from a community perspective, which is really exciting. We have an excellent community that is very engaging and loves to talk about tech, auths, everything around authorization and authentication in general. So that's where I'm at right now. I am also the head of growth at Citta India, which is a non-profit. I help build an audience for the entire initiative of helping students get the mental health support that is required or get the mental health support that they really need. This is usually done by lessening or sort of reducing the gap that we see between the between what students are actually needed or what needs to be done for these students and what is available out there. So we try to be a bridge, and we try to bridge the entire gap between these two aspects. It's an interesting initiative. Check it out if you haven't. I'm also a host on Minded. This is my second podcast. Codecast was the first one, which was something I was building in association with HackerEarth, specifically for developers, for tech enthusiasts, anybody who loves technology and building products. Codecast is probably the platform for you. Minded is a little different. It's more around mental health, where we talk about some fun experiences, some not so fun experiences from schools and colleges, which could have been dealt a little better had we had better experience, or like had we known better resources that were available for mental health. Personally, I'm a podcaster. This is I mean, I've done 2 podcasts in the last 2 years. It's a very exciting space. I love talking, obviously, and it's just an interesting space for me personally. Second is I'm a design enthusiast. I love understanding how products really function from a design aspect, what really makes a product compelling to use, what makes it very habitual to an extent. I love reading up about design thinking. I love researching more about UX. In my stint with my previous organization, I had the opportunity to run 2 surveys with a little over 40,000 developers. And it was one of the most exciting things ever. So we were collecting data and trying to understand what people really like, what people don't necessarily need, and we were trying to bridge that gap as well. So I love design. I love design and everything that comes with it. UX is probably one of my most interesting conversation starters. I'm also a mental health ally, so I do talk a lot about Citta India and about the entire space. I've had my fair share of troubles. So that's essentially who I am personally also. And that sums it up. That's about it. Right now, again, I'm a developer marketing manager at Savo Labs. Anything DevRel related, especially when it comes to understanding the relationship between how a developer really perceives a product and what we are actually trying to build. I usually like knowing more about it to make the experience of somebody who's building on our product a little better is the goal. And that's essentially what I am doing right now. To jump into our topic, I actually want to first define what a community is, and sort of tell you how we can perceive communities in a way which is very valuable for your brand in general. The basic difference between a funnel and a loop when it comes to building communities is often confused, which is a funnel is something which is there's fixed constraints to it. The only thing that you can do is increase proportions of certain parts of the funnel according to what kind of results you're really looking for. So you can either increase the demand on the top half of the funnel to get in a lot more people visiting your particular platform, but not a lot of people really converting into community members. So in my entire experience that I've had with building communities, if there's one thing which I've really learned, it's that communities don't necessarily have to be a funnel. So if say you have a funnel with about 3 parts to it, so one is we're going to name 1 as the topmost part, 2 as the middle part, and 3 as the bottommost half of a funnel. So it's not that if you pour in more effort into one of these parts, the output will get affected when it comes to a community. It doesn't necessarily have to work like that. Instead, what I like to sort of how I like to define the community is that it's a recurring loop. If you sort of look at any kind of loops like acquisition, engagement, revenue, are the three basic parts of any loop when you actually look at it. It's also three parts of a funnel specifically. And if you have to break this down into how communities function, you acquire a user, you bring them onto the platform through different marketing channels. You engage them with whatever is available on your platform. This could be either your product or this could be content that you specifically create, which people want to engage with. And then that is converted into a revenue model. Now, community could be a USP for you, or you could be selling the product, or you could be selling different kinds of different parts of your sales pitch to the community. So that's the third half, which is the revenue. What usually happens with a community is you acquire, you engage them with the content or your product, you create a revenue model, and then you acquire more people again. It's not a funnel in the sense where if you increase the acquisition, revenue won't increase substantially. It has to happen organically, which is the best part about it. So I always try to explain to people that the community is not a funnel. It is always going to be a loop. It is something that takes a lot of time. You have to organically build it to a point where things start working out for you. So each part or each aspect of this has to be worked on multiple times during an infinite loop for you to actually start seeing better results. So they will compound, but you have to keep churning out more cycles of acquisition, engagement, and revenue specifically. Exclusivity is everything. This is something which a lot of builders, a lot of community, product builders in general really forget, which is if you really want your community to feel special, you need to ensure that you are giving something that is very exclusive to them or to their experience specifically. What I mean by this is if there is 10 people in a room and you're trying to cater to all 10, you're really not doing a great job, because it's impossible to be catering to all 10 people with your product. Have your niche, double down on it, make the 2 people in the room feel special, that your product is catering only to them, and let them do the evangelism for you. This is usually how community building is done, where there could be, to give you a simple example, any kind of new product that you've heard, it could from Google to Facebook, it always started out by targeting very specific set of people. Facebook was released in Stanford, or I might be quoting his college wrong, but Zuckerberg's college specifically, because it was very specific to their needs. And then it started evolving to, to countries, to continents. And that's how they eventually led to building a very strong community. I wouldn't say very strong, because we all know how Facebook is going through multiple issues, but it is a recurring and an exclusive group, right? So these membership programs, these specific things that you see, they all started out with catering to a small niche and then sort of opening the entire thing up for a larger user base. So your community is always going to feel way more special, is going to feel way better and more attached to the product if it is exclusively catering to the needs of specific people. And that's what you need to keep in mind even when you're sort of building a community for your product. Cater to the few honest, people who genuinely care about the product, rather than catering to 500 users who really don't make all that much of it, whose opinions won't really help you build something that's very sticky, which brings us to the third point. Make it sticky for the 3 people that you're building it for. When I was working on a couple of side projects, and I remember working our messaging, I remember working for about 2 weeks, after which I realized our messaging is just not working out. It's not a great model for us to be building on. Our product wasn't very strong. We knew we had a strong product, but our narrative, our messaging, none of it made sense, because we were catering to the entire audience that was available there. Instead, what we had to really do was we had to we had to cater for about like 10 to 15 people who cared about the product, and now keep building and making different alterations to the product in order to fit the needs of these 15 people. Once they like it, they will spread the word. A very good example is this browser which is called Sidekick. If you've not checked it out, like make sure you do, because it's a fantastic app. It was made by extremely passionate product guys, from what I know, and it's a browser which catered to very few people initially. Sort of perfected what they did after a couple of experimentations, opened it up to a very small audience, and provided provided the entire Google extension for the browser for free to very few people, and then they released it as a paid product later, which was very exciting because you don't usually see a lot of products do that, and that genuinely goes to show that you care about the first few people that you're making, that you're involving in your community, or when you're building your community in general. So yeah, community is a funnel, is not a funnel, it is a loop. As the faster you learn, or like the more iterations of this loop that you create, the easier it is for you to actually build a very strong community. You will fail. A lot of things when you do will fail, and we will have a look at those later. But as you're doing that, it is essential to sort of understand that these loops only make it way stronger. Coming to the second point, which is when you're sort of creating a product and when you're sort of trying to build around a community, this is just it's called the sweet spot of pitching or making a very strong pitch. I found one of these models with a notification app. I'm not sure how many of you have used Dunzo, but Dunzo uses these really nice notifications for everything. For whenever they have something new, a different feature, something that's different. If they have discounts available, they use really beautiful notifications, which are extremely catchy. And I really enjoy having a look at Dunzo's notifications. I remember reading an article which mentioned that their entire model was around 3 aspects, and that's what made users really come onto the platform itself. The overall churn, or the change in the number of open rates that they saw, increased by about 44%. And that directly contributed to a large amount of their revenue, which was very exciting to see. Now, community functions in a very similar way to what you're looking at, to the model that they had actually shown. To explain what that is your product is only one part of what you really want to build. Now, you always want to hit the right target when you're trying to build a community. The narrative has to be perfect. Your product needs to be on point for the community. There needs to be some kind of value for the community directly that comes from the product. And if you are really looking at the intersection of all of these 3 main key major points, you are hitting the sweet spot. You need not worry about how you're sort of trying to break other things down, how you're trying to sell your product to people, because you are already doing it in a very small and amazing way. You're actually capturing the right audience, the right market out there. And I think that's very essential when you're building a community as well. Your product, every messaging, your community has to have these 3 aspects clearly put out there. To give you guys an example, at Savo, we really believe that we can change how the entire auth ecosystem sort of looks, or is how developers perceive the entire auth ecosystem, and we want to sort of make some kind of change to it. So we try to build a community around our product, around the value that we are giving to all of these developers, which is we help them build or include our product into their projects, and we try to give them some kind of value through it. The third point is obviously the messaging, which is we want to build a community that's highly interactive, highly engaging, and something where people really want to build more. And that's essentially what we are trying to achieve. Even at HackerEarth, to give you guys an example, the product was the assessment platform or the hackathon platform. And we wanted students to use it better so they get used to, the entire remote format of remote interviews. they also get used to, they have more value for them, which comes directly from using the platform, creating micro communities for their colleges, in their schools. And the third one was the messaging, which was, we were an assessment platform. So that's essentially how you want to build your sweet spot for building a community. If you don't, every time that you try to build a community, always try to answer these three questions, which is, will the community really care about my product? Do I have a product that I can build a community around? Can I add any kind of value? Can my product really add any kind of value for the community? And the third one is, what is the messaging? What am I really trying to tell the community right now? Or what is this message? What is this community really trying to achieve? If you have all three of these questions answered, you shouldn't have a problem with setting your own community, even if it's for your personal brand or for a product that you're actually building. If you have these three questions, you are hitting the sweet spot, and you should be able to build a really beautiful community around it. Coming to the next part, which is how to leverage communities, is exciting. Now that we've seen what kind of messaging you want to set up, what community building actually is, I want to sort of talk a little bit more about how you can leverage communities in a way where it's not just communities benefiting by you joining them, it's also you benefiting a lot more from joining these communities. The first step, again, there's a ton of communities out there. You can join HackerEarth, you can join Savo has a beautiful community. There's Aviyel itself has like a really great open source community. You can join any of these communities, but you need to understand what your niche really is. Be a part of multiple communities, but contribute to a few and give it more time and attention than usual, so you really know what you're getting into, and that really helps you a lot. Find a niche. If you like open source projects or contributions, sit down. That's your niche. Contribute to that community, and you will keep learning. Network with people in the same domain, and you will keep learning constantly. The second one, it's a two-way street. Don't expect to join a community and be like, you know what, the community is just going to help me out. I'm going to take all of its resources and go, because that's not going to work out for you as an individual. Because if you keep jumping from communities to communities just for the resources or for the swags or for the LORs, it's going to get really tiring eventually, and you're going to want to stop doing that. Instead, try to answer questions which you have an idea about when people put things up on the Discord group or on WhatsApp or Telegram or wherever it is. Try to answer more questions, try to contribute to live sessions, try to join more live sessions, because you get to learn a lot more from them. There's a ton of webinars and resources that everybody puts out there. Try to sit down, understand how they work, learn as much as you can, contribute by showing your presence. You just have to show up, and that'll pretty much help you learn more and to help you collaborate with a lot more people, which brings us to the third point, that is collaboration with the entire community. I found some of the coolest people to build side projects with on these Discord channels that I hopped on during my 2-year stint at HackerEarth also. I just joined a ton of Discord channels, and I learned so much more about Web3, about assessments, about selling your product, about writing. And I met a ton of really cool people I can actually reach out to and ask for help. And that was really cool. Currently, I'm also doing like a side, not exactly a side project, but a free tutorial sort of a thing, which is a 21-day crash course to writing better, where I meet some of the most experienced folks, like who've been influencers, who have had like 50,000 odd followers on Twitter, who've sold 2 ebooks and are on their way to sell the third one. And it's very exciting to come across these individuals and learn with them when you're doing it, right? And that's very exciting for me. Fourth is build a presence with whatever you're doing, right, in the community. If you are a part of communities, you will obviously write, you will obviously be answering a lot of questions. There will be a lot of connecting with people, a lot of perspectives which you will get a lot more ideas on, where you can actually start talking about a lot more of your ambitions. You can understand what other people's ambitions are, and you get to convert all of these into social posts, which is one of the best things that you can do. To give you an example, recently in one of the Discord groups that I was a part of, there was somebody who asked me a question, or didn't particularly ask me, they just put up a question asking, why are NFTs really valuable? And I had a little bit of information. I knew a little bit about what NFTs and the crypto space actually entails or has. And I put out a really nice, from what I heard, it was a really well put response, which I converted into a Twitter thread immediately. And that really helps me create more content, which in turn helps me build a very strong presence on Twitter. I don't think I would have been invited to this particular speaker session as well if it weren't for that, for the posts or for the visibility that I've gotten on LinkedIn. So that's also a very interesting aspect of this entire journey, where you can build a social presence as you're a part of multiple communities. If you sort of take these 4 points and start working on these 4, you will eventually build a very strong presence on Twitter or be it on LinkedIn. I'm not great with Instagram. It's not really a platform which I'm good at, but I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there who can help you out with building a strong presence on Instagram as well. So keep building, keep contributing a lot more to these communities, and you never know, one of your side projects could be the next big startup that you're actually looking at, and you might just come across your co-founders on one of these Discord groups or one of these communities. So keep contributing to them. The last one is obviously questions. I wanted to keep this slide extremely short, so that these slides extremely short, because we've just scratched the surface on how to build communities for your product entirely, with a couple of examples also. I'm better with live examples, so I think Joshua, you can help me with understanding what questions we have, and maybe we can take it forward from there.
Yeah, thanks for the session. It was so enlightening for me as well, and for the community, of course. Like, learned a bunch of things, and yeah, everything which you mentioned was really essential. But yeah, I have come up with few questions, and there are a bunch of attendees as well. You can post your questions in Q&A section. So there, I think there's already a question asked by Ankur. So can you take that first? Yeah.
Sure. Can you elaborate on the value loop of the community? If you are talking about the recurring loop, Ankur, just give me a confirmation if possible. Are you talking about the recurring loop of acquisition, engagement, revenue, and acquisition again? Is that what we're talking about? Okay, I'll try to break it down, and let's see if it really helps your question. So basically, acquisition is when you are trying to actively get more people to visit your product. Usually when you build a side project or any kind of an app, say I'm building an app which is, or say I'm building something very small which is in public, right? What is the best way to get more people onto the product is to maybe let other people test it out, get more people involved, and solve all the issues that I see initially, and then start building on those particular people. So if I've spread the word across with 15 people and 15 people are using my product, I focus on these 15 people for the acquisition numbers that I'm looking at. Post which comes engagement. Out of 15, there could be just 3 people who are really interested in using it day in and day out. But that's actually great odds, to be honest. 1 out of 5 is good odds. But yeah, so there's 3 people who are using it every day on a daily basis. And that really adds a lot more value to what I'm really doing. Then comes the third part, which is revenue. Out of these 3, there's only 1 person who really buys the premium model for whatever I'm selling. Now that is an entire funnel when we are looking at it. So that's acquisition, engagement, and revenue. With communities, what happens is when you're building a community, this goes back to acquisition again. So instead of you selling your revenue model once and then being done with it, or you doing a subscription thing or membership and you're done with it. You create something for these members then. So you have, say, 30 members. Now that out of 30, there's only 15 who are really engaged with what they're doing, right? Then you create something specific for those 15. Out of 15, only 1% really interacts with it. So now you have multiple loops which you're trying to understand, and you're making these loops constantly better. So the first time that you try something that is acquisition, that to acquire users, which is reaching out to 15 people, you're like, hey, I could have just put this up on LinkedIn and there could have been a lot more people who would have joined me. Now you try LinkedIn again, which is a loop after the first revenue model. So more iterations of these loops will lead to better success rates and bigger, bigger results. For example, if there is 10 people who are really trying to, there's 10 folks who are really, or on this particular session, right? Say Joshua has conducted 4 webinar sessions on this product. He realizes that, you know what, maybe we should have a Q&A session, because sending a Google form every time is just very tiring. So what he does for the 5th session is that he actually he adds a Q&A session to his product itself, which won't be perfect. And then comes another part where he adds a Q&A session, and then he adds another poll section to it too. So now he's constantly iterating and making his product better as he experiences the community and the product. This is a lot faster with communities, because the community will tell you what they don't like straight on your face. And it's your call to actually take it into action and prepare or develop a product that's more sticky for them. So I hope that value loop really, I hope that answers your question, Ankur. Feel free to add more to it if it doesn't, and I will take it up. All right, perfect. Thanks for the thumbs up.
Yeah, it was really great. I think you answered everything with respect to that question. So to add on to this question, right? So the most important part is acquisition, right? I think it's the most difficult phase, where when you are building a product, you want to reach to a certain audience to become a partner or maybe a beta user. So what suggestions you give to a budding product like that? Like, what type of audience and what is the way to reach out to such people, and how we can actually bring them into our platform? Is there any specific way you want to suggest?
So obviously this depends on your product, but to give you an example of how your community could really help or really scale this entire thing is by the factor that I mentioned, which is exclusivity. When you're build for 10 people, build for 20 folks, and figure out what doesn't work with these guys. Now these 20 folks will spread the word for you. Just have a very simple referral program where you're giving away your entire platform to these 20 people if each one of them gets five folks in the next 1 week. Now that's a great layer to add on to all of this, right? So now you're not just creating exclusivity, but you're also telling them that they will be the only first 20 users to the entire platform, which is pretty. I would love to do that, and we've tried it with a couple of things. I've tried one of those things on my LinkedIn post also, where I was like, if you comment something on my post, or if you comment one specific thing, I will share the resources that I use for a particular event. And that was the highest views that I had ever gotten, it reached out to about 45,000 people, and I have only 1,800 odd people who are connected to me. So that was a really exciting thing, where if you add value, but at the same time are connecting with your audience, you are really building on something really special for them. So provide value for 20 people. Don't build your product for 200,000 people, because that's not going to stick. It's impossible for you to scale up if you're building keeping everybody's opinions in mind. Build only for 20, let those 20 people then spread the word, and let them add more value to the product in general. So yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you so much. That really sums up everything. And as you have been with the communities like HackerEarth, and recently I've joined Savo Labs. And yeah, you have been part of several non-profit communities, right? So what are the learnings you would like to give us, like a product like Aviyel, right? It's still budding, we are still building the things, and the community is so vast, open source. So what are the learnings you would like to give from your experience and your perspective?
So I've obviously gone to the product. I don't know all of it because I don't think I've interacted so much with it. But from what I really know is that when you're building something for developers, keep them as your first perspective. Keep them as your first, like, developers are not like an everyday community. If I know how to code and you're treating me as like an NFL like community, it's not going to fly the same way because now I know how to code and I can build something on my own.
Yeah.
So what are you really adding, or like what value or what layer are you really adding to my side or my personal project? That's the very first question that I would ask if I had to join Aviyel, right? If you are adding value, like these sessions, for example, add value to me joining Aviyel's community. So that helps me understand a lot more. But other than that, are you really helping me build my product? You are, because your product is something that can help a lot of developers, right? So essentially building that essence is what I would suggest for products like Aviyel. Again, I could be totally wrong with whatever experience I have. This has worked very well for me in the past, and it has been working even now. So definitely, like, ask them, like just simply ask them, how can we really add value to you? Whatever's on your roadmap, on your product roadmap. Again, I know this sounds very product manager type conversations, but that's not what I mean. Whatever is doable at that point of time, execute it, and then see if you can maybe scale it up from there. That would be my suggestion.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah, there's one more question. What are the challenges you faced personally when you were working as a developer evangelist and in the developer advocacy space, right? So I believe, like, everywhere there are challenges. Like, nothing can happen without facing and like tackling the challenges. So what did you specifically face in your entire journey, and how did you actually tackle them, so that we can get a better picture if someone gets into the same challenge?
Correct. I think scaling up was one of the biggest problems that we face, because what happens is you go from 0 to 1. Now you're on 1, right? Like, you're doing great. Your product is being liked by a lot of people, is being used by a lot of folks. Now, from a community evangelist or a developer evangelist perspective, now you want developers to actually see value from what you're doing. And now you're not catering to 100 or 200 folks, you're catering to 3 million developers across the globe. So I think the biggest challenge for us was to build on that particular aspect, where now we were really building for 6 million, or we were really focusing on 6 million people, and we really wanted feedback, very valid feedback coming in from them. And every user for us, or every community member for us, was the same. We cared about every member as much as we did for another. And obviously, like, there were some who were more active, who were like, yes, we want these changes. There were people who were really mad at us, like, how can you not make this change in your product and stuff like that. But I think towards the end of the day, it's what can you really do to add value, and how can you really solve a lot of problems. So scaling up was definitely one of the biggest issues. And the way that we did it was we broke every problem that we had across a larger time frame. So don't plan product changes for like 2 months, or like don't plan changes that you have to make for your community in 2 months. Community roadmaps take almost, like, you usually have like a 1-year roadmap for your community, and you try to build that that entire aspect to it, right? With anything small that you're building, it will take a lot more time. Initially, it looks like you can build everything like very quickly, and you can hack your way through the community, growth hacks, stuff like that. But as you're scaling up, it gets very, very hard for you to come up with initiatives that everybody likes. So you have to focus on your core and engage and ask people what they like more, developers specifically. So yeah,
Awesome. So basically, you mean we have to keep in touch with the valuable people in the community and take continuous feedbacks and implement it straight away.
for sure. Not straight, if not straight away, make sure that you're sort of addressing it in some way,
Yeah.
right? Over a time frame, because like
Yeah.
people are not going to be happy when you tell them that, hey, we can't take this up right now. So instead, like, tell them that, hey, we can't take this up right now. You know what? We will, or we have included it in some time frame. We will be doing it at some point of time, because no, when it comes to criticism, just take all of it, but execute and work on stuff which is constructive. That take everybody's feedback, take 100 users feedback, but only work on 20 which align with the goal of your product as well. So work on those 20 which really help you scale up your game, and that's essentially the only advice I have.
Awesome. Yeah, that really helps, I believe. And yeah, if there are any questions, you can ask in the chats. Like use the Q&A, because that's the best place we can see and we can track the questions. And yeah, if there is anything you want to learn about communities, we will be posting this on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe our channel and follow on our socials. There will be lots of good announcement, because these type of conversations, these type of sessions are really helpful. Like it can be just 45 minutes, but yeah, it can really help you with what you are trying to achieve in your future. And yeah, building products and building communities, both are the things which are essential for any individual, I guess. And especially in the developer community space, it is the mandatory thing. Like everyone has to evolve with the communities, or else you will not see any growth. So you have to be connected with these communities. And yeah, Savo is really doing great with the authentication, and the community is really great for budding developers. You can check out Savo Labs, and yeah, HackerEarth is another good example which Anirudh has been part of. And yeah, we at Aviyel, we are trying to make open source a better place. Basically, we are not acquiring, but really understanding the projects, looking at the roadmap, and trying to help the projects to grow in terms of community and content creation. So content creation is another big aspect of Aviyel. Like we are having a bunch of content on our website. You can go and check it out. So we are just talking about these projects, not only just telling what it is. We are giving out the tutorials on how you can actually use them in your personal projects, because open source is the most powerful, most efficient. Whole world is made of open source components, right? So without these open source, I don't think that world today will be a better place to actually live. Technology, basically. So that value we should be giving back to the open source, and that's what Aviyel is aiming. And we are coming up with more sessions. And thank you, Anirudh. Thanks for coming in. And I hope we will be doing more and more deep discussions on this topic, because it's really deep, highly important for the community as well. And thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Pramit. And yeah, everyone who is here. So we'll definitely come up with more things. Go to our events platform. You can see a bunch of things, right? Bunch of events which actually matches your interest. There are a lot of events, so you can register and you can stay updated, stay notified, and yeah, that's it. So like Anirudh, any final note or conclusion you want to give to the participants, to the community?
Yeah, I mean, we've just scratched the surface with community and product building. I'm not an expert at product building because I'm obviously not a product manager, but I've had some experience in the past with building communities from scratch for products. So that's essentially where my knowledge comes from. My only advice to people would be to just constantly keep building on the side. Fail like 100 times, but fail fast, and recover so that you can learn way faster. That's the only suggestion I have. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, Joshua. Utkarsh, we connected before this. Thanks to the entire Aviyel team for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you. It's our pleasure. And we'll coming up with more events together. Maybe we'll be having some more interesting topics coming up. And thanks, Anirudh. So have a great, I think it's holidays week in India. So have a great weekend. So enjoy with your family. Stay safe and play safe. And take care of your mental health. So Anirudh is also, you can connect with him if you have anything you want to ask him on LinkedIn. And even I'm a mental health advocate. I do it in my free time. So connect with us if you have anything, because that's very important as well. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And stay tuned for more sessions. We'll be coming with lots of content. Yeah, thank you.